Welcome to Kiss and Chapters, where every story begins with a spark and ends with a swoon. If you love heart-fluttering romances, unexpected twists, and characters you'll root for, you're in the right place. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so I can keep bringing you more sweet, emotional, and unforgettable stories. Let's fall in love with every chapter, together. Chapter 1. I woke up as the villainess. I woke up to the sound of birds chirping. Soft morning light filtered through silk curtains, casting a golden glow over an obscenely lavish bedroom. The bed beneath me was enormous, draped in velvet and embroidered with silver thread. My apartment didn't look like this. My bed was a twin-sized mattress with a coffee stain on one corner. I bolted upright, my heart hammering. "Lady Florence, you're awake." A young maid hurried in carrying a tray of tea. "His Grace has been asking for you." "His Grace?" I blinked at her. "Who?" The maid tilted her head. "Duke Amadeus, of course. He's waiting in the drawing room." My blood ran cold. No. Amadeus. The name sent a jolt of recognition through me. I wrote him. I was Florence Carter, a romance novelist who had just finished drafting The Ice Duke's Vengeance, a tragic story about a cold-hearted duke who destroys the villainess who ruined his life. No. I was inside it. As Lady Florence, the villainess. The one who was supposed to die in the third act. I stumbled into the drawing room, my borrowed corset squeezing my ribs. Duke Amadeus stood by the window, his back to me, his broad shoulders outlined in sunlight. He turned slowly and my breath caught. He was exactly as I'd written him. Sharp jawline. Piercing blue eyes. Hair so black it almost looked violet in the light. And that icy, unreadable expression. The one that made courtiers tremble. "Florence," he said, voice like winter. I gulped. In the novel, today was the day Lady Florence publicly humiliated him at the spring ball, sparking his hatred. But I wasn't her. I had to change my fate. "You're late," Amadeus said coolly. I clasped my hands together. "I apologize, Your Grace." His eyebrow twitched. "Since when does Florence apologize?" I panicked. What would the real Florence say? Something cruel, probably. But I couldn't force the words out. Instead, I blurted, "The weather is lovely today." Silence. Amadeus stared at me like I'd grown a second head. Then the faintest flicker of something crossed his face. Indeed. He studied me for a long moment before turning away. But not before I saw it. A spark of curiosity in his eyes. As he left, my maid whispered, "My lady, you were supposed to remind him of his father's disgrace today." I went pale. Right. That was the scene. The one that sealed my doom. But I hadn't done it. No. The story was already changing. Chapter 2. The Duke's Curiosity. The aftermath of my strange behavior. I spent the rest of the morning pacing my room, my mind racing. I avoided the first disaster. In the original story, Florence had sneered at Amadeus, bringing up his father's scandal. A wound that festered into hatred. But I hadn't done that. So why did I still feel like I was walking on a knife's edge? A knock at the door startled me. Lady Florence, the maid, Lydia, curtsied. "His Grace has requested your presence in the gardens." My stomach twisted. What? Had he noticed something was off? Was this a trap? But refusing would be suspicious. "I'll be there shortly." The palace gardens were breathtaking. Manicured hedges, cascading roses, and a marble fountain glistening under the afternoon sun. And there, standing beneath a willow tree, was Amadeus. He was even more striking in daylight. Tall, regal, his dark coat contrasting against the vibrant greens. His gaze pinned me the moment I stepped onto the path. I forced myself not to fidget. "You wish to see me, Your Grace?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he studied me as if searching for something. "You didn't mention my father." My breath hitched. He noticed. I swallowed. I didn't think it was necessary." A beat of silence. "Why?" The question was soft, but it carried weight. I hesitated. What excuse could I give? Because I'm not the real Florence? Because I know it'll make you destroy me? Before I could answer, a small voice piped up behind me. "Am I lady?" A young kitchen boy, no older than 10, stood trembling, holding a broken vase. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to." In the novel, Florence would have slapped him for the offense. Said I knelt down. Are you hurt? The boy's eyes widened. Amadeus went very still. I checked the boy's hands for cuts, then smiled. It's just a vase. Don't worry. He sniffled. Really? Really? I patted his head. Go on before the head maid sees. The boy scurried off, relief written all over his face. When I turned back, Amadeus was staring at me like I'd grown wings. You let him go. I stiffened. Right. Florence would have punished him. He was just a child, I said carefully. Amadeus's gaze darkened. Since when do you care about children? I opened my mouth, then closed it. He's right. Florence wouldn't. A tense silence stretched between us. Then something unexpected happened. Amadeus stepped closer. Who are you? The question was barely above a whisper, but it sent a shiver down my spine. I forced a laugh. What do you mean? I'm Florence. His eyes narrowed. No. You're not. Panic clawed at my chest. Does he know? But before I could respond, a breeze swept through the garden, carrying petals between us. And then, I hummed. A habit of mine. A modern pop song I'd been obsessed with before waking up here. Amadeus froze. What was that? Oh no. Nothing. I said too quickly. Just a tune. His expression shifted, something unreadable flickering in his eyes. I've never heard it before. Because it doesn't exist here. I was digging my own grave. But instead of accusing me, Amadeus did something worse. He smirked. You're full of surprises, Florence. The way he said my name like a challenge made my pulse skip. We walked back in silence, but the air between us had changed. Every glance he sent my way felt loaded. Like he was piecing together a puzzle. And I was terrified. But also intrigued. Because the Amadeus I wrote was cold, ruthless, unyielding. But this man, he was watching me. Not with hatred but with curiosity. And that was far more dangerous. That night as I lay in bed, Lydia brought me a note. Unfamiliar handwriting. Sharp, elegant strokes. Meet me in the library at midnight. My heart leapt into my throat. Was this a trap, or something else? Chapter 3, The Library Incident. Midnight Secrets. The grandfather clock struck 12. I clutched the note in my hand, my pulse hammering. Meet me in the library at midnight. What did Amadeus want? Was this where he confronted me? Threw me out of the estate? Or worse, realized I wasn't the real Florence and had me executed for witchcraft? I tightened the shawl around my shoulders and crept through the darkened halls. The palace was eerily quiet at night, the only sound the soft click of my slippers against marble. When I pushed open the library doors, the scent of old parchment and candle wax enveloped me. And there, bathed in moonlight by the arched windows, Amadeus. He turned, his piercing gaze locking onto mine. You came. As if he hadn't been sure I would. I swallowed. You summoned me. A faint smirk tugged at his lips. And yet the Florence I knew would have ignored it. But she was cruel. Because she wouldn't obey you. I folded my arms. Maybe you don't know me as well as you think. His eyes darkened. That's exactly the problem. He stepped closer and my breath hitched. Why did you call me here? I asked, forcing steadiness into my voice. Instead of answering, he turned toward the shelves, running his fingers along the spines before pulling out a book. The Ballads of Eldria. My favorite. I stiffened. You've been borrowing this every week, he said. The real Florence hated poetry. My fingers twitched. Stupid. I hadn't even thought about the original Florence's tastes. I developed a new interest. He arched a brow. In this specific collection? The one you once called sentimental drivel? Damn it. I bit my lip. People change. Do they? He took another step toward me. Or is it something else? The air between us crackled. I was trapped. I turned away, pretending to examine the shelves. Why do you care? Silence. Because the woman who humiliated me at court wouldn't have spared a servant boy. My chest tightened. Because the Florence I knew wouldn't hum. I flinched. Because, he murmured, now right behind me, you look at books like they're treasures, not like the nuisance she saw them as. I whirled around and nearly collided with him. He was so close. Close enough to see the flecks of silver in his blue eyes. Close enough to feel his breath on my skin. My pulse roared in my ears. Who are you? he whispered. I opened my mouth. Then the door creaked open. A sleepy-eyed maid blinked at us. Your Grace? I heard voices. Amadeus didn't move. Didn't even glance away from me. Leave us. The maid paled and scurried off. But the moment was broken. I stepped back, my face burning. It's late. I should go. He caught my wrist. We're not finished. His grip wasn't harsh, just firm. Warm. I should have pulled away. I didn't. Tell me the truth, he said, voice low. Just one honest thing. I hesitated. I'm not who you think I am. His thumb brushed over my pulse point. I know. A shiver ran down my spine. For a heartbeat, neither of us moved. Then he released me. Tomorrow. The Eastern Terrace at dusk. It wasn't a request. I nodded before I could stop myself. As I fled the library, one thought consumed me. This was how hearts got broken. Chapter 4. The Eastern Terrace. The Weight of Secrets. I spent the entire day in a haze. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Amadeus's piercing gaze in the library, felt the ghost of his fingers around my wrist. Tell me the truth. But how could I? Oh, by the way, I'm not actually Florence. I'm a writer from the future who got stuck in this novel, and by the way, you were supposed to hate me and ruin my life. Right. That would go over well. Lydia helped me into a simple lavender gown, oblivious to my inner turmoil. You've been quiet today, my lady. I forced a smile. Just tired. But as the sun dipped toward the horizon, my stomach twisted into knots. Eastern Terrace. Dusk. No turning back now. The terrace overlooked the palace gardens, bathed in golden twilight. And there, leaning against the marble railing, Amadeus. He wasn't wearing his usual stiff coat, just a white shirt, sleeves rolled up to his elbows, the breeze ruffling his dark hair. He looked human. Not the untouchable Duke. Not the cold character I'd written. Just a man. He turned as I approached, his expression unreadable. You came. I clasped my hands to hide their trembling. You didn't give me much choice. A flicker of amusement. There's always a choice. Then why did it feel like there wasn't? Silence stretched between us, thick with unsaid words. Finally he spoke. Where did you learn that song? I blinked. What? The one you were humming yesterday. His voice was casual, but his eyes were sharp. I've never heard it before. Because it's from the 21st century. I swallowed. I made it up. Did you? Not a question. A challenge. I looked away. Why does it matter? Because, he said softly, the Florence I knew couldn't carry a tune if her life depended on it. Damn it. Another slip. Another mistake. I was running out of lies. The sun sank lower, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold. Amadeus moved closer, his shadow stretching over me. Who are you? The question hung between us, heavy with meaning. I opened my mouth. And broke. I'm not her. The words tumbled out in a whisper. I'm not the Florence you knew. His breath hitched. For a terrifying moment he just stared. I know. My head snapped up. What? A faint smile touched his lips. I've known for a while. How? As if reading my mind, he reached out slowly, deliberately, and tucked a loose strand of hair behind my ear. His fingers lingered. The way you smile at servants. The way your nose scrunches when you read. The way you look at me, like you're seeing me for the first time. His voice dropped. She never looked at me like that. My heart threatened to beat out of my chest. Then why haven't you? Exposed you? He withdrew his hand. Because I wanted to know who you really are. The air between us crackled. I should have been terrified. But all I felt was relief. So what now? I asked. Amadeus studied me for a long moment. Now, he said quietly, you tell me the truth. And for the first time since I'd woken up in this world, I wanted to. Chapter 5. Truths Unveiled. The first rule of storytelling. Confession scenes should be dramatic. Moonlight. A secluded terrace. A brooding Duke waiting for answers. Yet all I could think was, this is how I get burned at the stake. Amadeus leaned against the terrace railing, watching me with that unreadable gaze of his. The breeze carried the scent of night-blooming jasmine between us. Start from the beginning, he said. I twisted my fingers together. You won't believe me. Try me. So I did. I told him everything. About my world, about cars and smartphones and coffee shops. About how I was a writer, not a noblewoman. About the novel I'd penned, The Ice Duke's Vengeance, where he was the tragic hero and Florence the villainess who met a gruesome end. When I finished, the silence was deafening. Amadeus hadn't moved. Hadn't even blinked. He laughed. A low, disbelieving sound that sent shivers down my spine. You expect me to believe, he said slowly, that I'm a character in some fictional tale? I winced. I know how it sounds. Then why tell me? Because you asked. I threw my hands up. And because I'm tired of lying to you. Something flickered in his eyes. For a long moment he just studied me. Then he pushed off the railing and closed the distance between us in 3 strides. Prove it. My breath caught. How? Tell me something you couldn't possibly know. His voice was rough. Something about me. I swallowed. In my novel, Amadeus had a telehabit he only showed when vulnerable. You trace your thumb over your signet ring when you're unsettled, I whispered. Like this. I reached out, brushing my fingertip over the silver crest on his right hand. He jerked back as if burned. His eyes widened. As it was true. A habit he'd never let anyone see. The air between us charged. Amadeus stared at me like I'd just pulled the stars from the sky. That's impossible, he breathed. I know. You wrote that? Not just that. My voice trembled. Your father's scandal. Your mother's lullaby. The scar on your left shoulder from... Enough. He turned away, running a hand through his hair. I waited, heart pounding. This was it. The moment he'd call me a liar. A witch. Does it have a happy ending? The question caught me off guard. What? Pie's story. He faced me again, his gaze burning. In your book. Does it end well? My throat tightened. No. A beat of silence. Then Amadeus did something unexpected. He smiled. Good. I blinked. Good. Because now, he murmured, stepping closer, we can change it. His hand found mine, warm, calloused, real, and laced our fingers together. And just like that, something inside me shifted. This wasn't the Amadeus from my pages. This was him. The moon hung high above us as we stood there, hands entwined. No more lies. No more fear. Just this, us, and the beginning of something new. Amadeus lifted my chin with his free hand. Write me a better ending, Florence. And as his lips brushed mine, I knew one thing for certain. I already was. Chapter 6. Stolen Moments. The Aftermath of Truth. I had kissed Amadeus. Or, more accurately, he had kissed me. A fleeting brush of lips under the moonlight, soft enough to make me wonder if I'd imagined it. But the way he looked at me now, like I was the only thing in the world worth seeing, confirmed it had been very, very real. Stop staring, I muttered, stirring my tea with unnecessary force. Across the breakfast table, Amadeus smirked. Why? Does it unsettle you? Yes. Of course not. I lifted my chin. I simply find it rude. Why? Everything about him unsettled me now. The way his fingers lingered when passing me the sugar, the way his voice dipped when he said my name, the way he hadn't let go of my hand last night until we reached my chamber door. Lydia cleared her throat, refilling my cup. His Grace has been in unusually high spirits this morning. Amadeus sipped his coffee, eyes glinting. Perhaps I had a pleasant dream. I choked on my tea. The problem with no longer lying to Amadeus? Now he knew everything. Including the fact that in my novel Lady Eleanor, the sweet, kind-hearted heroine, was supposed to steal his affections from the villainous Florence. Which explained why, when Eleanor approached us in the garden that afternoon, Amadeus immediately laced our fingers together. Eleanor blinked at our joined hands. Apologies, I didn't mean to interrupt. You're not, Amadeus said smoothly. Eleanor's gaze darted between us. I simply wish to invite Lady Florence to the Modiste. For the spring ball. The spring ball. Where, in the original story, Florence humiliated Amadeus publicly. Where Eleanor would shine. Where everything would begin to unravel. My grip tightened on Amadeus's hand. He squeezed back. We'd be delighted, he said. Eleanor's eyes widened. Oh. Of course. I'll arrange the carriage. As she hurried off, I whirled on Amadeus. What was that? His thumb traced circles over my knuckles. Prevention. Of what? Of her, he said simply. And just like that, something warm and possessive curled in my chest. That night, I found Amadeus in the library again. This time he was waiting, leaning against my favorite bookshelf, arms crossed. You're avoiding me. I scoffed. I'm not. Liar. He pushed off the shelf. You fled breakfast. Dodged me in the halls. Disappeared after. I'm adjusting, I hissed. Do you have any idea how strange this is? I wrote you. I know every tragic backstory, every flaw, every. He kissed me. Not like last time, no soft brush of lips. This was heat and hunger, his hands cradling my face, his body pressing me against the bookshelf. I gasped and he took advantage, deepening the kiss until my knees wobbled. When he finally pulled back, we were both breathing hard. Tell me, he murmured against my lips, did you write this? My brain short-circuited. And no. Good. Another kiss, slower this time. Then this is ours. The next morning the entire household was abuzz. Because Duke Amadeus, the man who never smiled, had been humming the same modern pop song I'd absent-mindedly sung weeks ago. When I confronted him in the courtyard, he merely arched a brow. Problem. You're humming. And you don't hum. A slow smirk. I do now. Then, in front of 3 gardeners, 2 footmen and a very shocked butler, he pulled me close and kissed my temple. Get used to it. That night as I lay in bed, reality crashed over me. I wasn't supposed to be here. This wasn't my world. And the more I changed the story, the more I wondered. What if the universe corrected itself? What if one day I woke up back in my old life? What if I lost him? A knock startled me. Amadeus stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable. You're thinking too loudly. I swallowed. How could you tell? He crossed the room in 3 strides, cupping my face. Because I know you now. His thumb brushed my cheek. Tell me. So I did. And when the fear spilled out, he kissed it away, whispering against my lips. Then I'll just have to make sure you never want to leave. Chapter 7. The Spring Ball. A dress that changes everything. The modiste had nearly fainted when I requested red silk instead of the traditional debutante white. But my lady. Trust me, I had said. Because in the original story, Florence had worn white. A deliberate insult to Amadeus's family, whose crest bore the same shade. A calculated cruelty that set the stage for his revenge. Tonight I would break that script entirely. Lydia fastened the last pearl button at my nape, her reflection grinning in the mirror. You look like a queen. The gown was fire incarnate. Crimson skirts that whispered against the floor, delicate gold embroidery tracing the bodice, sleeves that left my shoulders bare. A knock at the door. Amadeus stood on the other side, his usual black formal wear replaced with deep burgundy. Matching me. His gaze raked over me, slow and deliberate, before he offered his arm. Shall we? The ballroom hushed as we entered. Not because of scandal, but because for the first time in memory Duke Amadeus was smiling. And his attention never left me. Lady Eleanor, resplendent in pastel blue, gaped from across the room. The Countess of Vexley dropped her fan. Even the musicians missed a note. Amadeus leaned down, his breath warm against my ear. They don't know what to do with us. I bit back a laugh. Then the whispers began. Since when does the Duke attend balls? Why is Florence wearing red? Why are they, good heavens, is he holding her hand? Amadeus ignored them all, leading me to the dance floor as the quartet struck up a waltz. His palms settled at my waist. No running now. We moved together like flame and shadow, his steps perfectly matched to mine. In my novel, this dance had been a battlefield. Florence stepping on his feet, Amadeus coldly enduring it. Now his thumb traced circles over my hip through the silk. Now his gaze dropped to my lips every time we turned. Now he pulled me closer than propriety allowed, murmuring lyrics from my world songs against my hair. You've been practicing, I accused. His chuckle vibrated through me. I had motivation. The music swelled, and then stopped. Because Amadeus had raised his hand. Every eye in the room fixed on us. Silence. I have an announcement. My pulse skyrocketed. What is he doing? Amadeus didn't let go of me. If anything, his grip tightened. Many of you have speculated about my relationship with Lady Florence. Pause. Allow me to clarify. He turned to face me fully, one hand lifting to cradle my cheek. The court gasped. I intend to marry her. Not I wish to. Not I request. I intend. The room erupted. But all I heard was his whisper. Rewrite this scene for me, darling. In my novel, the spring ball ended with Florence's humiliation, with Amadeus turning away in disgust. Tonight I grabbed his lapels and kissed him in front of the entire court. His surprised laugh melted into the kiss, his arms banding around me as the crowd lost their minds. When we broke apart, his forehead rested against mine. Best plot twist ever. Chapter 8. The Aftermath. The morning after the storm. I woke to the sound of shattering porcelain. Lydia stood frozen in my doorway, a broken tea tray at her feet. Why, you're engaged? Right. News traveled fast in noble circles. I sat up, rubbing my eyes. Technically, he didn't ask. His Grace just sent 6 trunks of betrothal gifts. She flung open my curtains, revealing the courtyard below, where servants were indeed unloading an absurd amount of velvet boxes. And there, directing the chaos with a smug expression, was Amadeus himself. Our eyes met through the window. He grinned. I flopped back onto the pillows with a groan. Breakfast was a spectacle. Every noble in the palace suddenly found excuses to accidentally pass by our table. Lady Eleanor looked like she might faint. The Countess of Vexley kept muttering about modern impropriety. Amadeus ignored them all, buttering my toast with infuriating calm. You're enjoying this, I accused. Immensely. He set the knife down. They've spent years whispering about me. Let them choke on their gossip now. A footman approached, trembling. Why, your Grace, the Marquis of... Not now. Amadeus didn't even glance up. Unless it's on fire or dying, it can wait. The footman fled. I sipped my tea to hide a smile. It arrived at noon, an unsigned letter, slipped under my door. You don't belong here. That's all it said. Amadeus burned it without a word, but the way his jaw clenched told me everything. Someone knew. Someone remembered the original story. I found him there that night, poring over estate ledgers with a furrowed brow. You're worried, I said. He didn't deny it. We're changing too much too fast. A chill ran down my spine. You think the universe will correct itself. His fingers stilled on the parchment. I think I won't let it take you. The raw intensity in his voice stole my breath. In that moment he wasn't the composed Duke, just a man terrified of losing what he loved. I crossed the room, taking his face in my hands. I'm not going anywhere. His arms banded around me like iron. Promise. Promise. He kissed me then, hard, desperate, his teeth scraping my lower lip. When we broke apart, his thumb brushed the spot, eyes dark. Good. Now everyone will know. Know what? The answer came at the next day's luncheon, when Lord Harwick complimented my dress. And Amadeus growled. An actual visceral sound that made the entire table freeze. His hand closed over mine on the tablecloth, his signet ring pressing into my skin like a brand. Wine. Not a request. A warning. Chapter 9. The Shadow of Doubt. The second letter. It arrived at midnight, slipped beneath my door like a serpent. You think you've won? The story always writes itself. The handwriting matched the first note, elegant, deliberate, vicious. I stared at the words until they blurred. Because the writer wasn't just threatening me. They knew. They knew this was all wrong. I found him in the armory, methodically sharpening a dagger. He didn't look up when I entered. Tell me about the original story again. His voice was too calm. I swallowed. You destroyed Florence. Ruined her reputation, took her fortune, left her with nothing. The blade glinted as he turned it. And now you're here. With me. I stepped closer. It's different. Is it? The dagger clattered onto the table as he surged forward, caging me against the wall. His breathing was ragged, his eyes wild. What if this is just another part of the tale? What if I'm still following some damned script without realizing it? His hands trembled against my waist. What if you wake up one day and aren't you anymore? I shoved him back. Stop. He froze. You think I haven't wondered the same thing? That I don't lie awake terrified this is all a dream. My voice broke. But I'd rather live in this maybe than drown in what-ifs. The silence that followed hurt. Then Amadeus dropped to his knees before me, his forehead pressing against my stomach. I can't lose you. The raw ache in those words shattered me. I tangled my fingers in his hair. You won't. We said it at dawn. Left the next letter, a fake one in my handwriting, lying openly on my desk. I remember everything. Meet me in the North Gardens at midnight. Then we waited. The figure moved like a shadow between the hedges. I held my breath as they reached for the note. Amadeus struck. One moment the garden was silent. The next he had the intruder pinned against a marble statue, his dagger at their throat. Show yourself. Moonlight revealed Lady Eleanor's tear-streaked face. You weren't supposed to change, she sobbed. You were supposed to love me. Ice flooded my veins. Because Eleanor wasn't just Eleanor. She remembered the original story too. Chapter 10. The Keeper of the Original Story. The garden was too quiet. Moonlight pooled around Eleanor's trembling figure as she clutched the unsigned letter, my forged letter, in her hands. You weren't supposed to change him, she whispered. A tear cut through the powder on her cheeks. He was mine in the original. Ice flooded my veins. You remember? Every version. Her laugh was hollow. The first time you altered the story, I woke up back at chapter 1. This time. She lifted her head, eyes glowing with unnatural awareness. This time the universe can't decide how to fix you. Amadeus's dagger was at her throat in an instant. Explain. Quickly. Eleanor didn't flinch. She's breaking the rules. The more you love her, the more the narrative fractures. Her gaze locked onto mine. Haven't you noticed? The déjà vu. The nosebleeds. Moonlight carved shadows across Eleanor's face as she stepped from behind the marble gazebo. Her usual pastel gown was replaced by a dove-gray dress, the color of morning in this world. You feel it too, don't you? Her voice was raw. The headaches. The déjà vu. Like the world is stuttering. I froze. Those were my symptoms. Amadeus's dagger was already drawn, but Eleanor didn't flinch. Instead, she rolled up her sleeve, revealing a translucent forearm, veins glowing faintly gold. I've been fading for months, she whispered. Ever since you first changed the story. The rules of the world. Eleanor explained in broken fragments. She'd been awake for 3 iterations of the story. Each time Florence altered major plot points, the universe reset, but with errors, like Eleanor's memories persisting. Now the magic was fraying. This is the last cycle. If the story breaks completely, we all unmade. Amadeus's grip on my hand turned crushing. How do we stop it? Eleanor laughed wetly. You don't. Unless, her eyes met mine. You give him back to me. The Duke moved before I could blink, pinning Eleanor against the willow tree, his blade at her throat. Try. His voice was deadly soft. But Eleanor just smiled. You're different too now. In the original, you'd have already slit my throat. Then she let go of the locket around her neck, the one I'd written as a key plot device. It clattered onto the gravel, revealing a miniature portrait of Amadeus's mother. She gave this to me in chapter 12. You never wrote that scene, did you? Silence. Then, I'll leave, Eleanor said quietly. But not for gold or exile. She looked at Amadeus. Burn the locket. It's the last tether to the old story. Amadeus hesitated. You'll forget everything. Good. A tear fell. I'm tired of being the heroine. As the locket melted in the brazier, Eleanor's translucent arms solidified. My headache vanished. But Amadeus's signet ring cracked down the middle, the crest of his house now imperfect. Eleanor, now confused but unharmed, was escorted to her new life in the south. As the carriage rolled away, she waved cheerfully, no recognition in her eyes. Amadeus pulled me close. It's just us now. No scripts. No fate. But that night I woke to find his cracked ring glowing gold, and the first snowflake of winter falling, in midsummer. Extra. The Keeper of the Original Story. Dual POV, Florence and Eleanor. Eleanor's POV, before the confrontation. The locket burns against my skin. I've hidden it for 3 lifetimes, through resets where I woke screaming in my childhood bed, through versions where Florence died early and the story collapsed anyway. This time is different. I watch from the rose trellis as Amadeus kisses Florence's temple in the courtyard. A gesture he never made in the original. My fingernails bite into my palms. Stupid. I should know better by now. The universe doesn't care about my pain. But when I touch the locket, the one with his mother's portrait, the artifact that shouldn't exist, I feel the timeline shudder. Tonight I'll make them choose. Eleanor steps from the shadows, her gray dress swallowing the moonlight. You feel it too, she says, rolling up her sleeve. My breath catches. Her forearm is translucent, veins pulsing gold like illuminated manuscript ink. Amadeus moves in front of me, dagger drawn. What are you? The consequence. Eleanor's laugh is razor-edged. Every time you rewrite the story, the universe glitches. And I remember. Eleanor's POV. The way they stand together, his hand on the small of her back, her fingers clutching his sleeve, makes me nauseous. This isn't how it's supposed to be. In the original, I comforted Amadeus after Florence's cruelty. I was the one who stitched his wounds when the assassins came. Now he looks at me like I'm the villain. Fine. Let them see the cost. I yank the locket free. Your mother gave this to me in chapter 12. You never wrote that, did you, Florence? Amadeus goes still. I've struck blood. Florence's POV. The locket's portrait is unmistakable. Amadeus's mother, young and smiling, her eyes his exact shade of blue. I never described her face in the novel. Eleanor presses her advantage. The story is fighting back. Florence is fading. Liar, Amadeus snarls. But I've seen my translucent fingertips in the bath. The way servants sometimes look through me. Eleanor's POV. For a heartbeat, I hope he'll choose survival. Choose me. Then Amadeus does something unprecedented across all my lifetimes. He sheaths his dagger and takes Florence's face in his hands. I don't care if the universe unmakes us. I choose this. I choose her. Something in my chest cracks open. They'll burn for their defiance. But as I watch them, foreheads pressed together, breathing synchronized, I realize. I want them to win. I drop the locket at Amadeus's feet. Burn it. It's the last tether to the old plot. Florence gasps. You'll forget everything. I know. My voice is steadier than I feel. Make it worth it. As the flames consume the locket, I feel memories peel away like petals. His laughter at my jokes. The way he once gripped my hand during a storm. All those resets where I loved him in silence. The last thing I see before the carriage takes me south is their intertwined shadows, long and unbroken across the courtyard. Epilogue. The sound of her laughter. The first morning. I wake to sunlight in her. Florence is curled against my chest, her hair a mess of gold across my arm, her lips slightly parted in sleep. The word still thrums through me like a prayer. Carefully, so carefully, I brush a fingertip over the freckles on her shoulder. The ones she complains about in summer. The ones I've memorized like constellations. She stirs, blinking up at me with sleep-soft eyes. Staring again, she mumbles. Admiring. Her nose scrunches the way it always does when she's fighting a smile. You're ridiculous. And then she kisses me, warm and slow and perfect. And I know with absolute certainty that no fate, no story, no god could have dreamed up something as right as this. And when she laughs against my lips, I think, this is the sound that rewrote my soul. Bonus chapter. The Scholar's Wife. Eleanor's POV, 2 years later. The sea breeze carries the scent of lemon trees through my open window. I hum as I braid my hair, a tune I don't remember learning, while my husband traces maps across my bare shoulders. Still thinking about Duke, what's his name? Elias teases, nibbling my earlobe. I swat him away laughing. Only because you won't stop asking about him. The truth is, I remember nothing of my past life. Not really. Just fragments. The smell of snow in a palace I've never visited. A locket that sometimes appears in my dreams, empty. The inexplicable urge to hate a woman with gold-flecked eyes. But none of it matters now. A parcel arrives at noon. A book wrapped in plain linen. No note. When I flip it open, pressed forget-me-nots flutter out. The pages are blank except for a single sentence. Thank you for the happy ending. Elias peers over my shoulder. Odd gift. But my fingers tremble as I trace the ink. I know this handwriting. Somewhere deep inside, a ghost whispers. Florence.